The hamlet of Sun. There's a small bell. You reach Parista and go straight to the seat of the Council of Magi. A worried and grim-looking guard bars your way.
Sorry, we are not to let anyone into the palace.
The guard looks around nervously.
Lightning bolts. A couple of days ago. Not like in a storm, but in all the colours of the rainbow. On the next day, we were told that the Magi had all departed again, and Master Nudin was not to be disturbed. No one has been allowed in the palace since then. Not even us.
The report of lightning bolts doesn't particularly worry you. On the contrary. If the Magi have travelled back to their kingdoms, it can only mean that they were able to reinforce the barrier. You are eager to hear Lot Yonan's account in the vaults. You arrive at a crossroads with a tavern on the corner. A warm light is emanating from its window, lighting up the road around it. A stone sculpture of a sheep stands in front of the door, and above it a sign, swaying gently in the breeze, reads, "The Stone Sheep." You enter the tavern with a determined stride, and are greeted by a thick wall of pipe smoke. The dozen or so drinkers at the tables turn towards you, then give each other astonished and slightly worried looks. In the tavern, there are half a dozen people sitting at the tables, and just as many at the bar, clearly farmers and labourers from the surrounding villages. Boindale pays no attention to the other guests and trudges over to a table. Together with his brother, you follow him and sit down. The landlord comes out from behind the bar.
What can I get you?
You hear surly muttering from one of the tables.
What are groundlings doing showing their faces here, now of all times?
Did two travellers pass this way? One was a famulus, the other a mercenary.
The landlord shakes his head indifferently and mumbles something incoherently. One of the guests is about to say something, but shuts up when the person next to him gives him a poke.
I wouldn't mind a pint of ale.
The landlord nods and takes the twins' order too. Shortly after, he returns with your beers and puts them down in front of you.
Is that all?
You turn to the guest who'd muttered something about groundlings.
And why is it so strange that we're here?
The man glances up briefly and then stares drunkenly at his tankard and mutters with a slur,
Don't play the innocent. The orcs are terrorizing our lands. And whose fault is it? You let them in.
I was not at the Stone Gateway, and I don't know what happened. But you can be sure of one thing. Dwarves would never cooperate with orcs. We kill them no sooner than we say them, or my name isn't Boindale Doubleblade.
The drunkard and his neighbour are given a start. They mumble an apology and turn their attention to the beer in front of them. You stand up and turn to the room.
This round's on me.
The faces of the guests and the landlord brighten up immediately. The landlord gets to work pulling everyone a beer and handing out the tankards. Some of the guests say cheers to you as they get their drinks.
Come on now, tell us what happened. We're all friends here.
The man who was going to speak the first time round looks over to his neighbour, who nods.
Two travellers spent the night here. One had a robe on, the other was a mercenary. The next day they left, all in a hurry. Said they'd been attacked by an elf.
One of the other drinkers finds his voice too.
There was a hell of a lot of noise that night. As if there'd been a dust-up.
You left some gold here for the trouble. I thought they meant the noise, but then I noticed the broken window.
The landlord sighs.
Please don't tell anyone else about this. Who will want to spend a night in a tavern where an elf has been sighted?
We're tired and long for a proper bed.
Of course, gentlemen.
You spend a restful night in the tavern and then head off on your way again. Once you reach the top of the hill above Goodwater, you can see what is left of the village. The sea of red-roofed tiles has given way to a forest of burnt black ruins. You see a light through the trees some way from the path. It inevitably brings to mind your encounter with the woodcutters. You must confess that you'd have liked to have taught the woodcutters a lesson, but Boendal is right.
Beating up humans is not our mission.
But
A harsh glance from you and Boendal silences Boindil. You continue on your way with a furious Boindil trailing behind.
Why are the Magus's vaults here in the middle of nowhere? And why does the Lord of Yonendar live in a vault and not in a castle?
It's to do with the magical fields that spread out under Girdlegard, so the 5 magical realms are found where the fields are at their strongest.
And that's why he lives in the vaults? To be closer to the underground magic?
No, it's more to do with security. 200 students of magic and a source of almost unlimited magical energy. The Magus thought that an underground vault was a more suitable place to train than Master Nudin's tower in the middle of Parista.
I don't like it here. All this hocus pocus is bad news. Us dwarves know that and keep well away, just as Vracus commanded. I hope you know that too.
I cannot perform magic, and I've never attempted to. Nevertheless, please show respect. Remember that it was Lot Yonan who took me in and saved me.
Now then, it would seem that the tongue of the learned one becomes somewhat haughtier, and his sentences doth wind most strangely as we verily approach the vaults.
You can't help but grin guiltily. With a beseeching glance at the twins, you step into the area in front of the vaults. Seeing no one there you might greet, you and your companions enter your old home through the open gate.
Who the hell built this tunnel?
Boendal examines the crumbling roof with a mixture of disbelief and indignation.
Be quiet. I want to surprise them.
Is that such a good idea? What if we give your master such a shock that he casts a spell on us? I don't want to be turned into a mouse or a bar of soap.
It is unusually quiet in the vaults, but the smell of dinner is in the air. You imagine Frala looking up at you from her cooking pot in the kitchen and smiling.
Ah, there's boiled and roasted meat for dinner. Come on.
That's no reason to go and get ourselves turned into something weird. We'll stay here until you're finished with your little game.
Ikana isn't in her cradle. Where could Frala have taken her? Lumps of meat rise up and appear on the brown, bubbling surface of the soup before sinking back down out of sight.
The hearty smell makes your mouth water.
A human foot?
Your stomach turns, and you have to fight hard against the impulse to run out of the kitchen screaming.
You look around the workshop with growing panic. No one to be seen.
A couple of weeks ago, this anvil was my whole world. Now my world's a whole lot bigger.
What happened here? Speak!
Ah, another one.
Don't even think of using magic, or I'll lodge this pretty piece of steel in your brain.
It takes the Famulus a few seconds to comprehend the situation he's suddenly found himself in. He seems to weigh up his options for a moment before he breathes out and the tension leaves his body.
All right, I won't use magic.
What happened here? Where is everyone?
For a while, the Famulus seems to be playing with the idea of being stubborn. Bowendahl pushes a little harder on the end of the crow's beak, and the tip penetrates the skin. Blood seeps out.
They're gone. Dead.
A school full of magi destroyed without any signs of struggle? Lies.
The facts seem stacked against it, but you cling on to this faint hope.
Lot Yonan's famuli were already in Parista. There were only novices left. We made easy work of them. The Elfar, Syntharas, he insisted on being part of the raid after he found out that you grew up here. He opened the gates and killed most of those here before they even knew what was happening.
In your mind's eye, you see a pale face appearing from the darkness. You saw what Elfar are capable of in Greenglade. You push the thought to the back of your mind and try to keep a clear head.
Lot Yonan, where is he?
Nodon killed him. He killed all of them in Parista. There's no one left in Girdlegard who can take on the last Magus.
You're saying that someone took on all 6 of the Magi at once and defeated them? Ridiculous.
5 Magi. My master Nudin is Nodon the Doublefold, the Lord of the Perished Land and soon-to-be Lord of Girdlegard. He killed the masters, and the apprentices followed soon after. They're all gone, and he changed the magic field so that only we can use them.
An icy hand grabs your heart. It's impossible that there's only a single Magus left, and he's not fighting against, but for the Perished Land.
Why are you snooping around in Lot Yonan's study? What are you looking for?
I'm looking for artifacts that Lot Yonan, when he was in Parista, claimed he had forgotten and left in a cupboard. And for the books that were stolen from Greenglade. I'm guessing you're the dwarves that stole the books.
What does your master want with the artifacts and the books?
I don't know. He commands, we obey. He's going to be very displeased. I did find a bag in the cupboard, but it didn't contain the right objects.
I've had enough of your lies. They're alive. Lot Yonan escaped and has gathered his apprentices, Frala, and the others around him to fight against Nodon. We just have to find them.
The war was over before you even noticed it had begun. Nodon cannot be stopped. He is on his way here and will just...
Blah, blah. We will leave immediately. This news is of great importance to the Council of Dwarves.
I'm not going anywhere. I have to find my friends, and I...
Orcs! Lots of them!
As good as done. Huh? Kill. The pillars. We could knock some of them down and bury those runts.
He hardly put up a fight.
Too easy. I didn't hit you very hard. Yeah. Yes.
What is it?
I didn't hit you very hard.
And again.
And what now? Who's next?
Pow! Another one bites the dust. There are too many of them.
The side door in the workshop. It's our only chance.
Who's next?
What is it?
I need help over here! Quickly! Huh? Yes?
Too easy.
Kill!
All right. On my way. Yes. What is it?
And what now?
I didn't hit you very hard. Huh?
Who's
What is
next?
it? Too easy. I didn't hit you very hard.
He hardly put up a fight. What is it? Who's next?
Huh?
Huh?
Damn.
The first 20 are mine!
You have come far, but this is far enough. Give me the artifacts and the books you stole in Greenglade, and I'll set you free.
What have you done to the other Magi? Your famulus told us some cock and bull story about you forcing them and their famuli to go to Parista and then murdering them.
I did what had to be done to protect Girdlegard. I wish there had been another way, but they would never have understood.
Do your eyes deceive you, or do you really see a brief moment of real regret on the swollen face of the Magus?
What's with the artifacts and the books?
They belong to me. Lord Yonan was supposed to bring them to Porista, but forgot them. So, I came to pick them up. That's all you need to know.
You wanting my rucksack is enough reason for me not to give it to you.
I don't need your consent. Look after the rucksack. If you lose it, you will also lose your life. Go back to your realm, dwarves, and let your king know that I need his land. Either he hands it over without a drop of blood being spilt, or my troops and allies take it by force. You can take this one with you. I have no use for him.
Invisible wizard, my ass.
Look!
Let me handle her. Kill the dwarves.
The rucksack! The artifacts! If he wants them so badly, they might be the key to his destruction.
There's the orc with the rucksack. Let's get him!
No chance.
On my way! As good as done!
I didn't even take off my gloves.
Yes?
And I didn't even take off my gloves. What a waste of time.
All right,
No chance.
fire creature. Yes. Who's next?
What a waste of time.
Kill. Ow! Another one bites the dust. And what now? And again.
What a waste of time. And I didn't even take off my gloves. What a waste of time.
Very hard. Huh? What is it? Yes? Ow! Another one bites the dust.
No chance.
Huh? And what now? Too easy! Pow! Another one bites the dust.
What a waste of
He
time.
only put up a fight. I'm with you. Yes, yes. Of course. I'm with you. Of course. I'm with you.
No chance.
Too easy!
I've got the rucksack.
Let's get out of here. Over the bridge. Let's go.
And I didn't even take off my gloves. What a waste of time.
Let's go.
Who's next? What is it?
Let's get out of here.
Retreat? We should fight on!
We would die. Perhaps you've noticed that Nodon has risen again, headless. He is more powerful than the Perish Land itself, but the key to his destruction is in here.
We will return to the Secondlings and tell them what the Magus is up to. We'll be safe at Ogre's death, and there we can hatch a plan.
If we manage to get there.
Nod On will do anything to stop us.
Then let him try! That was fun! What's next?
Boindil looks at you, and the sparkle in his eyes goes out.
We are both very sorry about what happened here, Tungdil.
You told me, Cynthia said. I convinced myself that...
You gulp and turn away from your friends.
Ha! That's what I call a goodly challenge! Cover me!
Not a good idea if you want to go on living, dwarf.
You've got quite a big mouth for someone who sounds like a girl.
You are Andikai, the Tempestuous, right?
Correct. And you are Tungdil, Lot Yonan's charge.
Honorable Maga, what news of Lot Yonan? Does he live?
Andikai looks at you in silence, pain and rage slowly spreading across her face.
He is dead, Tungdil, along with Myra, Turga, and Sabora. Nod On killed them all and destroyed the Council of Magi.
The certainty of their death is painful. It feels as though someone has just torn your insides out.
He killed their best pupils too. And now he's the unchallenged Magus in Girdlegard.
It was you, wasn't it, that attacked them with the lightning? Were you any more successful than we were?
Andikai shakes her head.
He defied everything I threw at him. All of my skills. In vain. I soon realized he was superior to me, but I wanted to buy you some time.
Nodon's famula said that he had changed the magical fields, but you still seem to be able to use them.
Andikai smiles.
I'm not quite as benevolent as the other Magi. My god Samusin is the god of balance. He loves the darkness as much as the light, which means I can use both. But my powers aren't unlimited. It is difficult for me to store and use this altered magic. We should avoid confrontation as much as possible.
Your companion, won't he sit with us and introduce himself?
Yes! Hey, you up there! Can you even hear us with that bucket on your head?
Jerun is mute, and he won't do you any harm unless I command him to. And as long as you treat him with courtesy, dwarf.
Boindil seems to briefly weigh up his chances against the two of them.
I decide when I'm courteous. Just don't get in my way. And the orcs are mine!
What happened? How could he defeat the Council of Magi?
Nudin called us to Perista, under the guise of reinforcing the barrier against the perished land. Instead, he tricked us, took control of most of our powers and attacked us. I cut him down with my sword, but he rose again and impaled me with his staff. All I can remember after that is the sound of fighting, destruction, and cries of death.
How did you survive?
Jerun. Nudin had forgotten he was with me in Perista. He found me, tended to my wounds and brought me out of the city to safety until I could summon up enough power to heal myself.
And Lot Yonan?
When Jerun carried me away, he was frozen in stone, like a statue. To my knowledge, the spell cannot be reversed.
You nod slowly. You don't have the strength to say anything else right now.
What will you do now?
Leave this place. I'm not so foolish as to believe that I could restrain the perished land or Nod On. Why should I stay here?
Foolish, no! but cowardly.
You're on your way to the kingdom of the Secondlings, right? Then I will accompany you and leave Girdlegard by the High Pass.
We'll need all the help we can get. Nodon will have a lot worse in store for us than just orcs.
The Mager nods in agreement. Then she looks pensively at your rucksack.
Your rucksack? Why did Nodon want it?
I was taking some objects to Goren, one of Lot Yonan's famuli. He was murdered at Greenglade by an elf. There were books lying next to his body which he was planning to send to Turga the Fairfaced.
May I see them?
You nod, take the books out of your rucksack, and hand them to her. She goes through the letter and the books, one after another, without showing any sign of emotion. Finally, she closes the last of the books.
Is that all? They are only sagas and travelogues from the Outer Lands, which tell of legendary creatures and myths. I don't know why they should be of interest to Nodon.
There must be something in them that's important to him. He destroyed a whole village for them, and the vaults.
Possibly. I'll study the books. But let's sleep now. Jarun can keep watch. We are still being followed.
The path leads you through a ravine, whose steep walls are mainly made up of loose boulders and scree. You could probably cause a rockfall that would block your pursuer's path and obstruct your way back. It takes longer than you would have liked to trigger a rockfall that is big enough, but when the dust settles, you realize that you have been rewarded for your troubles. The path is blocked. In the afternoon, with the sun low in the sky, the path leads you through a ravine. A glance at your map suggests that you're near to Boribor, the Orc realm.
Fracas, may we remain unscathed.
About a mile further on, Boindil suddenly stops in his tracks and sniffs.
Can you smell that? Piggy snouts! And lots of them too!
Let's proceed with caution. Perhaps we can take a few of them out before they raise the alarm.
On my way!
Vile creature!
He hardly put up a fight!
Too easy!
What is it?
Now you've got me interested. What a waste of time.
Ow! Another one bites the dust! Vile creature! And what now? Yes?
Kill!
I have...
What is
Give me a
it?
hand! Pow! Another one bites the dust!
And I didn't even take off my
Oink, little
gloves.
piggies! Huh? Who's next?
What a waste of time. No chance.
And what now? Oink, oink, little piggies! What is it?
Now you've got me interested.
Vile creature! Huh?
Yeah!
And again!
Always go! On my way! Huh? Huh?
What is it?
What is it? Yes?
Now you've got me
He
interested.
hardly put up a fight!
No chance.
Yes?
And I didn't even take off my
Vile
gloves.
creature!
No chance.
And what now? Ha ha! Oink, oink, little piggies! What is it? Ha ha! Pow! Another one bites the dust.
If I have to. Not a bad idea.
What is it? We should go down into the caves and vaults. There'll be more of them down there.
Or maybe we should concentrate on finally getting to Ogre's Death Stronghold, Boindil.
You ignore the offended look on your friend's face and set off, leaving the Orc Mountains behind you. You have put out a plate of food for the night every evening since Jeroen and Andakai joined you on your journey, but still none of you have seen him eat. You decide to pay particular attention to him this evening, to try and find out what is under the helmet. Andakai is sitting not far from the giant, studying the books.
Have you found anything useful yet?
She looks up at you.
You think I will stay and fight if there is a spell in the books that might defeat Nodon?
Yours is the god of balance. Don't you see it as your duty to create a balance between light and dark?
Instead of answering, Andakai rubs her eyes and closes the books.
It's too dark to study. Let's see what tomorrow brings.
Disgruntled, you watch the Mager as she walks over to her bed for the night. Your eyes fall upon Jeroen and the plate at his feet, on which not a crumb of food is left. You can already see the oasis a day's journey away, but in the glimmer of the midday sun, you're not sure whether it might not just be a mirage. But the twins are convinced that there is a village here, and the prospect of a roof over your heads for the night keeps you going. The nearer you get to the oasis, the more the uneasy feeling grows that something's not right. It's too quiet, and you don't see any movement. Once you enter the village, your fears are confirmed. Your enemies have already been here.
This whole thing is probably a trap. We should...
Welcome to Pasnar. I'm sure the citizens would greet you themselves, if they could.
You recognize the elf immediately. You saw him with the leaders of the orcs, and he appeared to you in a dream after Greenglade. Or no, not in a dream.
Sintheras.
So we meet again, Tungdil. What do you think of my work in the vaults? It was a nice start, wasn't it?
An eerie smile sets on Sintheras's lips.
Wonderful. I can see the hatred in your eyes. Come on. Come and get your revenge.
Yes? I didn't hit you very hard! And again! Kill! What is it? And again! Oink, little piggy! I didn't hit you very hard! Yes, yes! So, what is it? Who's too easy? Kill!
Yes?
On my way! Ha ha! I didn't hit you very hard! Yes! Ha ha! Pow! Another one bites the dust! Too easy!
Huh?
Or a set! On my way! Yeah! He hardly put up a fight!
As good as done.
On my way! Oink, oink, little piggies!
I'm not that quick!
Huh? I need help over here, quickly!
Retreat! Back! Why are you fighting against us? You're the son of Samusin! You should have nothing to do with this unworthy scum!
I've had enough of fighting. It's about time we head to your home.
I've had enough too. But we've got several days in the desert ahead of us before we can enjoy a cold beer.
The longer we talk about it, the later we'll get to our beer. Let's go.
You've been traveling through the desert for days. The sand is simply everywhere. In your shoes, under your clothes, in your mouths. Even the makeshift cloths that you've wrapped around your heads is of little help. With the last of the energy you can muster, you finally leave the 40-mile-wide sandbar that separated you from Ogre's death. It is as if you've passed through an invisible wall when the raging wind and sand suddenly fall silent. In front of you, an enormous massive towers into the sky, the Blue Range. The slopes cast long shadows over Ogre's Death Fortress, which nestles in the spurs of the mountain. Even from this distance it looks impressive, with its 4 defensive terraces, one above the other. The anticipation of entering a real dwarven city for the first time grows with every step, and you feel the power returning to your limbs. You've almost done it.
My High King, you have called me to succeed you to the throne. Here I stand before you.
Well... Before you are chosen as the successor to the High King, hear, King Gandagar, the challenges that await you. Hordes of orcs are rampaging through the north and the west, and the perished land is stirring. It would seem that the Magi cannot sustain the barriers.
This gives us an excellent opportunity to attack the last elves in Alandor. They are weakened. The perished land afflicts them. Let us wipe out the traitors once and for all.
Yes, right. Exactly.
Hear, hear.
Madness.
What are you talking about?
I do not recognize you, King Gandagar, in what you are saying. The elves are inhabitants of Girdlegard. Has your hatred for them clouded your senses to the point that you wish to ignore the words of our god?
Belendalin's gaze falls, as if incidentally, on the King of the Fourthlings' advisor.
Or is someone giving you bad advice?
On the contrary, it was Bislipper who finally supplied me with the proof. A report titled How the Fiflings Lost the Gate. It was the elves that poisoned the brave Fifling warriors in their stronghold. A devious disease spread by the pointy ears in the shafts of the Grey Range.
Impossible!
I always knew it!
Treason!
I don't believe
They should
that.
pay for it!
To the pointy ears!
Enough! Don't be so short-sighted! We are talking about the safety of Girdlegard. We must reach out and forge a large coalition with the elves. Yes, and even with the Thirdlings, if we are to defeat the perished land.
My High King, you cannot be serious!
Drivel from a dwarf who has grown too old in his post. Are we not here to choose a new High King? We have waited long enough.
It would seem you will have to wait a little bit longer. The second aspirant has arrived. Our guests must be tired from their long journey. The meeting is adjourned till tomorrow.
But why do you think that I...
Everything will become clear. I've had a room prepared for you. Before you take to your bed, please pay the High King and I a visit in the throne room.
Ah, Your Highness!
Heir apparent? What do you know? Spit it out.
A slight expression of guilt flits briefly across Boindill's face, but he's soon back to his old self.
A scholar as High King has something to it. You'll certainly have our votes, that's for sure.
Boindall nods in agreement.
As High King, you could unite the kingdoms and get them to do battle against Nod-On.
You look at your friends and aren't really sure whether they are trying to pull your leg or not.
I can't be High King. I got all my knowledge from books, and you're pulling my leg, right?
The twins' grins grow ever wider, and it would seem they can hardly contain themselves.
Just talk to High King Gundrabur and Belendalin. They will explain everything.
High King Gundrabur seems... well...
Old? He is ancient, even by Dwarvish standards. He has been old for as long as I can remember.
Belendalin has taken care of most matters for dozens of cycles. But Gundrabur always has the final word. His mind is younger than all of ours, I tell ya.
Belendalin should become High King. I was there when a runt took his arm. He still managed to kill half a dozen of them afterwards. What fighting spirit! We had to drag him off the battlefield.
The law requires that a firstling or a fourthling must be chosen as the new king of all dwarves. And, as the firstlings didn't turn up...
For the first time, you have the chance to appreciate the beauty of the place. You suddenly forget what you wanted to say.
I've never seen such masterful masonry. To be honest, I didn't even know that stone could be worked in such a way.
Ha ha ha! The secondlings are the best masons of all the kingdoms. That's how Fracas made us. Well, he made some of us into warriors, too.
Boindall glances at his brother, and he laughs with satisfaction while looking around the hall himself.
I think I'll continue to look around.
Don't get lost. And tonight, we will finally drink a lovely dark ale in the glowing anvil.
You can't see the bottom. When the secondlings named the Blue Range their home, there was nothing here but hard rock and a few small caves. Fantastic! Andakai, what is it?
I came to return these books to you, Tungdil. Luckily, I was able to make sense of most of it.
You observed how the Mager took time to study the books during your escape.
They are records from the Outer Lands. They tell of demonic beings from Barren Ground who can take possession of humans and invest them with great power.
Immortality, for example?
The Mager nods seriously.
They speak of an axe forged by the Undergrounders called Keenfire. It is said to have the power to cut through the flesh and bone of the living and completely destroy the demonic spirit deep within their soul.
So you think a demon from the Outer Lands has taken possession of Nudin?
He looked very different when I encountered him in Parista, and he rose from the dead even though you cut off his head. That can't be explained purely through the power of the perished land.
And he wanted to prevent these books from falling into our hands. That would only make sense if Keenfire had the power to defeat him. Where is this Keenfire?
I don't know if this weapon was ever forged. It requires rare materials and masterful craftsmanship. The purest, hardest steel, stone barbs decorated with runes, a hilt of Sigurdaisy wood, inlays made of all the noble metals, the blades studded with diamonds, smithed in the hottest forge.
We are dwarves. We have the most talented craftsmen.
And you have the Sigurdaisy wood. It is amongst the objects in your rucksack, which is fortunate as there are no more Sigurdaisies in Girdlegard. But even if you manage to forge the axe, it might all be just a fairy tale. It's too little to wager our lives on.
Do you know these undergrounders?
I have never heard of the undergrounders, but I've been to the Outer Lands before.
It must be terrible. The hordes of Tion have marched from there against our strongholds for thousands of years.
It's not as bad as you think. It is certainly safer than a land in which a magus possessed by a demon is on the loose.
We can get all the missing materials, as well as a gem cutter, here in the stronghold. After all, Gandagar and his fourthlings are here. A stonemason from the secondlings, and I can smith.
The Maga looks at you thoughtfully, and for a short time it seems as though your enthusiasm is rubbing off on her. But then she says,
I wish you good luck, Tungdil.
You still want to leave Girdlegard, but what will happen to your realm and all the other realms?
I admire your optimism, my friend, but it isn't wise to stand in the way of a rolling stone. I don't wish to give up my realm, but I would only be prolonging the suffering unnecessarily.
But
you don't want to let the last Maga in Girdlegard go. Unfortunately, you can't think of anything that could cause her to stay.
Many thanks, Honourable Maga, for all that you have done. A variety of cheeses, pickled cave mushrooms, toasted vault moss, and some smoked sausage.
The intense smell of the cheese makes your mouth begin to water.
Sigurdaisy wood. Very rare. I guess Lot Yonan wanted it to examine or experiment with.
Tungdil, come closer.
The power that the old High King radiated when he called the assembly to order has drained away from him. His body is sunken in the throne, but his eyes are alert and interested as he looks at you.
The lost son returns to his people. Thank Vracus. Tell us what you learned on your journey.
You describe your adventure down to the smallest detail. Neither the king nor his advisor interrupts you. From time to time they nod, as though they were already aware of certain facts. Their brows become more furrowed with every passing minute. When you are finished with your story, you also have some questions.
What game is being played here?
Gandagar, as king of the fourthlings, is to supersede me as High King, but his mind is poisoned with hatred towards the elves. He would probably win a war against them, but he would weaken us, and Girdlegard would not be helped by this. I was hoping for a great coalition with the elves, and even with the thirdlings. I would have given anything to start the negotiations. In times of great need, only the common goal can count.
And which role have you planned for me?
Well, with you as a second aspirant, certain possibilities of protocol open up to us.
I don't want to appear ungrateful, and I'm happy to finally be among my people, but but I will not ascend the throne. I hardly know anything about our customs and laws. Everything that I know, I have learned from books that Lot-Yonan gave me. There must be more suitable heirs than me.
Your renouncement honors you. But to be honest, you never had a claim. To stop Gandagar, we had to stall for time.
Lot-Yonan helped us with our little story. We don't even know if you are a fourth thing.
The king's advisor misinterprets your unbelieving gaze and quickly adds,
We're only being as deceitful as goblins for one solitary reason: to stave off possible harm to our people.
You feel as though you've been hit in the stomach. If this is true, not only have you lost your newly found kingdom, but Master Lot-Yonan also didn't see it as necessary to inaugurate you in the conspiracy.
Your plan has a flaw. Even if I were to light up, I couldn't win. No one on the council will vote for me.
You don't have to win.
Belendalin points to the Steelies in the throne room.
It's written in our laws that the High King can oppose an heir if he isn't elected unanimously. He can then demand a duel or a contest in order to determine the winner.
Such a contest could take weeks, if not months, and it would win us some time.
Why is Gandagar so full of hatred towards the elves?
His father and brother were murdered by elves. At least that's what's claimed.
No one knows the truth, just as no one knows how true this report about the Fiflings is. But isn't it strange that this letter has turned up now, just when it can play into the hands of the elf-haters? Many dwarves' hatred towards the elves is great, perhaps even greater than their honesty.
I understand why you want to prevent a High King Gandagar. You would be blind to our real problems.
Gandagar's only liability is that he lets Bislipper whisper dark thoughts in his ear. The advisor is the problem, not the king.
A problem that I am fortunate enough not to have.
The High King smiles weakly at his advisor.
Gandagar is a good dwarf and a good king, and I am certain he could also be a good High King if he was free of Bislipper's lies and false advice.
What kind of contest would you have us compete in? Gandagar is surely superior to me in many things.
Everyone in the council will write a task on a piece of paper, and from them the contest will be drawn.
And this only once you have made a speech and have won over as many as possible in the council to your side. The more sympathetic the council is towards you, the higher the chances of a contest that fits your abilities.
Speech? You're beginning to like this whole thing less and less.
Is this really the best for our people? If you cannot dissuade Gandagar from carrying out his plans, it could end in a fraternal war.
Don't worry. We'll open up his eyes and he will recognize the malice of his feigned friend. We just need time, and you must gain it for us.
All right then. I'm ready to do it. But I will need all of your support.
You can be certain of it, Tungdil.
Belendalin smiles at you encouragingly.
You say Andakai may have found a way to defeat Nodon, and she suspects that the Magus is possessed by a demon from the Outer Lands. It may be possible to kill this demon with an axe called Keenfire. I have commissioned armor that is worthy of a prince. It will be delivered to your chamber by sunrise.
You say goodbye with a queasy feeling in your stomach. You always thought that you were articulate, but the prospect of having to make a speech in front of the large council doesn't exactly fill you with elation. Vracus, who made the dwarves of stone, has himself been hewn from stone by these self-same dwarves. A masterly piece of work, like one of which only the masons of the Secondlings can still accomplish today.
Ah, Tungdil, what is it?
The High King and his advisor don't know where I come from either. But they only want to use me to delay Gandagar's coronation and ultimately prevent war with the elves.
Whatever happens, we will stand by your side, Scholar.
You're not sure whether the moral support of your friends will be much use in a contest with Gandagar, but it feels good not having to go through the whole thing on your own.
Andakai deciphered what was written in the books that Goren wanted to send to Turga the Fairfaced. They tell of a demonic threat from the Outer Lands and how it can be stopped. Nudin cannot be killed by normal weapons, but Undergrounders have developed a weapon that might be able to do it. Keenfire.
Undergrounders? What's that supposed to mean?
You shrug your shoulders.
Maybe there are dwarves in the Outlands too. Either way, they have described how this magical weapon can be made.
If it's got anything to do with magic, the weapon cannot be dwarfish. We shouldn't go anywhere near it.
Nudin fears the books. I believe that Keenfire is our best chance of stopping him. I think I'll continue to look around.
Don't get lost. And tonight, we will finally drink a lovely dark ale in the glowing anvil.
You are looking forward to the first proper bed for weeks. You undress and lie down. Before you know it, your eyes close and you fall asleep.